So today we're going to take a look at the Wild Turkey Handmade Kukri. And it does say handmade, and I think it does take it seriously, just based on all of the inconsistencies. Like the grips, the handle scales. This is an extremely round handle, so I wrapped it with some tennis racket tape, and it totally does the trick. Love it, actually. I love the feel of it, and I really don't care that the handle scales are not completely perfectly symmetrical. This sheath, I have no idea if it's actual leather. I think it is, and I have spray painted it. The little clasp to actually hold the handle to the sheath came out. I had it riveted back in at least once. Put a D-ring on here for a dangler, although I've taken that off. Probably going to put that back on. But it's held up for a year as far as being a, whether it's a leather or pleather, it's held up for at least a year. As far as the blade, it's got that Pakistani feel to it. It says it's made in China on the box, where it said Wild Turkey Handmade High Carbon Steel. I'll try to put that clip in from when I first opened this, because they misspelled it. So you know it's some Chinese foreign, you know, red dot Indian stuff, whichever it is, or a mix of the two. But I still love this thing. Wish I could get that to come in on the back side of that, like, as far as like the, let's see if we can, yeah, that does a little bit better. That shows the hand groundness of it. It's a $40 little chopper. And this is under tension here. And we're gonna give it the old whack-a-rooney just for the hell. Oh, that's one of those old, that's actually got roots in it to the ground. All right, so just to see what one chop will do to this under tension. Hopefully I don't get smacked in the face. It's one. There's a couple extra chops. We'll see what it does. My accuracy with one-handed filming is, as you can see, just fantastic. And I feel like this thing cuts through rather easy, honestly. I mean, and it's not the sharpest thing in the world. I've run this on a Kinani work sharp, but it hasn't done I mean, it's not down to like a razor thin freaking cut or anything. And as far as big blades go, I really don't give a shit if it happens to be not just absolutely ridiculously razor sharp, because you're swinging it. You got to think about that. Now, there's probably a lot of people that will disagree with me in the knife community about that. And that's fine. I really don't care. So let's try some stationary cutting. So I wanted to speed some of this up, because who wants to watch a guy chop in regular speed for 10 minutes, right? So I just wanted to demonstrate that this will go through just your average like land clearing stuff. You know, if you want to go through the small stuff, you can. The mid-sized tree stuff. This right here, this log, it had a pretty good hollow, or I mean, pretty good like solid core to it, but the outer like inch of it was kind of rotten. So I wanted to put that out there, that, you know, the initial first couple of chops looked like it was hogging it off there pretty good, and it really was, but truth be told, there was about an inch worth of rotten wood in there. This right here was pretty hard. This had been seasoned since like a summer or two, you know, so it's been there, but it's not rotten by any means. And it took a while to get through it, and I had to reset the camera because it kept slipping from where I had it mounted. But I sped this up as much as I could as well. Handy blade, but I feel like sometimes it gets stuck, like in the batoning phase. If you go watch some of the batoning, there's some points where it seems to just want to get stuck, and I think it has to do with it not being a thick enough blade to kind of push that wedge apart on a like a straight grain piece of wood. I think that's why I like a solid, thick, like 1/4-inch chunk of steel, because it seems to just do a better job of breaking that wood apart, whereas a thinner blade like that just doesn't quite do it.
Small chunk of wood.
And here we are, the beloved batoning phase. Who doesn't like batoning a thick blade, or just a blade with a good amount of length on it through some straight grain wood? It's super satisfying. One of my favorite things to do, and I don't know, I just feel like you get that fresh scent of wood as you crack it open. It's therapeutic. It's good stuff. Having to hammer that thing through. It got pinched in there, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It'll try to get pinched up in there because it's thin enough that it'll just kind of, I don't know, it just seems to want to be gripped by really straight grain wood. And that's why I like a thicker blade in general. Batoning right through, just like it ought to in most cases. And this is a 1075 Kukri here. And like I said earlier in the video, I don't know if this is Chinese or Pakistani or a blend of the two, because the box is terribly misspelled and hilarious, and then the blade looks like everything that comes out of Pakistan. So I'm betting it's the blend. So with a longer blade like this, you got to be careful, but I feel like it's advantageous to kind of choke up and use that mid part of the blade to do some feather sticking. And this wood's super dry, so it really just doesn't want to feather stick. And this isn't the sharpest blade in the world. So I'll grant you, my knife sharpening skills could probably be better, even with a Ken Onion Work Sharp. So here we are, just hogging a little bit of feather sticks and just getting some small stuff that's got some sharp edges that'll catch on a ferro rod here in a minute, just for that final test. You can scrape a ferro rod with a cheap piece of 1075, or you can scrape it with some rocks in the area. It's not really a super tough thing, but I just like demonstrating that it's got a decent enough spine and it'll do the trick as far as using a ferro rod with a blade, because I feel like they're just something to go hand in hand with a survival Minuteman, land clearing, brush clearing kind of tool. So here we are, getting the last little bits of sharpened little feather sticks off this thing so we can start a fire. A little post-flame styling and profiling here. Just demonstrate a little ferro rodding again for those of you that love the ferro rod. So some would ask, hey Chris, why do you want to buy this cheap Pakistani Chinese shit? And the truth is, I just love testing this stuff out. It's fun. It gets me outside doing something that I like doing, and ultimately, if it's a good piece of kit, and I only spent $40 on it, I freaking love it. And it's like, maybe one of these days, somebody interested, I can just be like, hey, here's a Kukri, Nobody ever gave me a Kukri when I was a kid. Nobody, sure, Grandpa hooked me up with a few guns and stuff like that, but, there was never that, person outside of my family that would just see the interest in something and be like, hey, check this out. It's yours. Don't hurt yourself. And hell, maybe we can go on an excursion together. And that's kind of how I feel about having a lot of this extra stuff. Yeah, is it consumerist bullshit? Yeah, it is. But is it still fun? Yeah. Am I getting out, getting exercise? Yeah. So that's why I like this kind of stuff. If I had more money, I'd probably buy some of the more Gucci stuff. I'm not against that. And I've got friends that kind of seem to see some of the things I say on my YouTube channel and then think that I just hate expensive gear. And no, it's just that I probably spend too much money on the cheap shit, and that's why I don't have the expensive stuff, but it keeps me active. So ultimately, I like getting a good deal. I think that this blade, Wild Turkey Handmade Kukri, I think this is a good deal. I'm actually interested in buying some of the further offerings from them, even though, yeah, I know that they're handmade. They're not going to be symmetrical stuff. They're not, punched out in a factory. And you might even be rolling the dice on a, shall we say, a heat treat on it. I still think it's cool. And, at a price like that, how could I not? So it's just one of those things. I like doing it. It's fun. And if nothing else, I can pass it along to somebody else and have a grand old time with it. So thanks for watching. I would recommend going and checking out the Wild Turkey handmade stuff. They're about $40, whether it's the Go Lock or the Kukri or the Parang or any of that stuff. Leave me alone, cat. But ultimately, it's just for funsies, and I hope you had fun listening to this video and watching me out here chopping a bunch of shit up with a cheap Kukri. Maybe go get yourself one of these cheap-ass blades and take it out and try to break it. And the truth is, I actually tried to break this when I first got it, Take it out, use it, get comfortable with it, and you might find it's one of your favorite tools in your entire kit.